Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Kat. Today I would like to introduce you a brand new series of what to expect as an international student in the United States. Because I think from my personal experience and as well as many of my friends, if you are a foreign student and you want to come to the United States for your college, for your graduate school, I think there are a couple of things that you should know before coming here. That's why I want to do a series of videos telling you about America in general, as well as studying and life in the United States. So let's get started. First, as a Chinese, the biggest difference is the food. I think as most of you know that America is not famous for its food. What is American food? McDonald's, KFC, it's all fast food chains. So if you are a person really care about your food, especially, let's say I'm a Chinese, I really love Chinese food, then probably you should know that most of the time you have to cook at home for your favorite food. That also really depends on which city that you live in. If you live in big cities like New York, California, like LA, San Francisco, or Chicago, Houston, there are a lot of Chinese food in the Chinatown. So maybe you can find the food that you enjoy. But even so, a lot of restaurants I tried, I've been to probably all the Chinatowns, all the big Chinatowns in the United States. I would say the food maybe not super authentic, right? It is definitely way better than the Americanized Chinese food, all these boxed Chinese foods that you saw in, let's say, Big Bang Theory or all the TV shows. But still, it might be a little bit different from the region that you are from in China. So it's the same thing applied to Italian food, French food. If you're Italian, if you're French, you might not be satisfied with the food here. So you might want to know before coming here that if the school that you apply to have the grocery stores that you want to find the food for, if you are a big foodie like me. So that's first, the food in America. But of course, if you really enjoy burger, sandwiches, American food, steak, if you're a big meat lover, it is very easy to find food here in America because it is very convenient. You drive to the McDonald's, you drive to, In-N-Out, you can find really cheap options for burgers and fries. You do drive through and it's very convenient. You don't even have to get off from your car, But definitely I would not recommend it because, it's not really good for health, right? So for the second thing I really want to talk about is the stereotypes here, that how Americans see you. So as a Chinese, right, I have experienced a lot of different stereotypes from other people. So the stereotypes I'm talking about are really, I think, very Americanized. So as a Chinese, I experienced several comments from my American friends saying, oh, for example, first, like, do you eat dogs? And I was like, no, I love dogs. Like, I have dog as my best friend because I have a pet dog. Like, why do you think we eat dogs? So that's, for example, one for Chinese. And, and also, of course, like, skinny eyes, Asian eyes, right? Also apply for all the Eastern Asians, probably. And also, they can't really tell, if you're Chinese or Japanese or Philippines, and then they will assume that, you're all the same Asian Americans, or they're just assuming you're all Chinese, And then, for example, other things like Asians are good at math, and what else? Let me think about it. But for example, right, Italians, they will be like, Italian, like they will use this hand gesture, things like this. And I think you have to know that there are stereotypes towards your race, towards your culture. So you don't take it personally if you think it is offending. Just think that, most of Americans maybe learn this on the internet. They might not really know your culture. So to me, I think this is really a good opportunity to talk with your friends, to tell them, Chinese don't eat dogs. We didn't start the COVID, like things like this. So in another culture, there are definitely certain experience like this would happen to you. So just don't take it personally. You know, that's just my advice, right? And the third thing, okay, I think that is actually maybe, I don't know, I think it's pretty unique. Because I talk to my friends in like certain European countries, they also don't have this thing in their country. That's tipping. Tipping is a very big culture here in the United States. You tip everywhere almost, okay, as long as it's a service, okay? Just keep in mind, if it's a service, you have to ask yourself if you should tip, okay? The most frequent thing that will occur to is the food, right? So if you go to a restaurant, you should tip the servers ranging from 10 to 20%. It depends on where you go and when you go. Lunch and dinner are a little bit different. And now because of COVID, so most people order takeouts or delivery, that you also tip accordingly, depends on how far you live. This is of course the very important thing for tipping these servers and drivers, because tipping is the biggest income that they get. And second, for example, if you do your hair, right? If you go to a hair salon, if you go to get a foot massage, you should all tip them, right? That's typically, I would say about 20 to 30%, really depends on where you go as well. And another thing, for example, if you go to New York City, in all the TV shows, you see all these yellow cabs. You should tip the cab drivers as well, right? So there's a lot of places involved in tipping as long as you experience a service, I would say, and I think it's really more like if the service is good, you tip more, but even if the service is bad, you should tip, because keep in mind that these servers, their wage really depends on your tip, right? That's the tipping culture I want to say, because it's really different from at least China that I'm from. Or I have Italian friends, she said they also don't have tipping culture in Italy, so I think this is really good for you to know before coming to the United States. And the fourth thing that I want to share is the immigration status that you really have to be aware, okay? No matter you come with B1, B2 visa, you come with F1 visa for studying, or J1 visa for exchange students or scholar. So visa is an item that's showing the custom of the United States that you can enter the country, right? But after entering the United States, the visa is not the important thing that keep you valid or legal in the United States. It is another piece of proof. It's a form, most likely, for example, if you're under F1 visa, that is your I-20. Okay, so that is the misconception, I think, between the visa and your valid status proof. For example, you need an F1 visa coming to the United States, but you need a valid I-20 to stay in the United States. So if your visa is expired, as long as your I-20 is not expired, you can stay in the United States. You don't have to go back to home country and renew your visa to maintain your valid status in the United States, okay? So I think that's also something that people always get confused. But this is very relevant to the next topic I want to talk about, is because you're international students, you might not be eligible for a lot of opportunities. So to me, as a graduate student back then, the biggest problem was the funding, right? So a lot of funding sources, as long as it's public, as long as it's from like National Institute of Health or national or any sub branches of the NIH, you really cannot apply because you are not a citizen. So be aware of that. When you pick a lab as a graduate student, you really need to know that the only funding source that you can apply is the private foundations, and that really depends on what research you do. So most likely you don't have any funding during your graduate study, or even later for your postdoc. It's just very competitive for the available funding opportunities for international students. So just be aware of that. And this also similarly applies to the job application, right? A lot of companies, they don't sponsor for your working visa later on, called H-1B. And that's also you have to take into consideration when you apply for the jobs. So that's why as international students, we really have to work extra hard to get the same opportunity as, Americans. So the next thing I want to talk about is the language. So to me, I think, so no matter how long you have been studying English, as long as it's your second language, it might not sound like native speakers. What I mean is not just the tone that you speak, right? It's about the whole culture behind it. Because when you have a conversation with Americans, there are a lot of slangs, there are a lot of different, phrases from Urban Dictionary that you might not know because you didn't grow up here, right? So there are some phrases or slangs that you don't know that makes it harder to break into the cultural barrier. And not only the slangs, but also your accents, right? So I'm a Chinese, I have my Chinese accent. My friend from France, they have their French accents, right? My friend from India, they have their Indian accent. So I think the accents and the slangs or the phrases that you are not aware of should not be the barriers to stop you from communicating with the American folks. This actually is a great opportunity to communicate with them, share your culture, your language, everything about you to them and help them be more open-minded, accept different accents. And I think the key is, first, you have to be confident, right? Maybe you have accent, so what? As long as you can communicate clearly and you understand them, they understand you, who cares about if you use, GRE level language? It's daily conversations. Nobody use sophisticated English proverb, So I don't think that matters. It's really all about your confidence. If you're confident, then you feel comfortable talking to other people, right? Then you improve your language potentially, and then, you make friends out of this. So I think even though language could be a barrier, but this could also be an opportunity for you to learn and make friends. So the last but not least, I think, is the currency concept, I would say. Just don't do mind game about the currency of the US dollars to your local currency, okay? Because that happened to me a lot. Especially, you are not from a country like Europe where they use euros, or Canada, the Canadian dollars. Both of them are pretty much equal to the United States dollars, right? If you are from, let's say, China, India, South America, we have currencies have very different values to United States dollars. So I remember when I just came here, and wherever you go, I will convert the US dollars to Chinese yens, and it makes me just very frustrating, right? Because, so let's say I go out for dinner, $30, and then plus tips, and tax, and then it become, I don't know, like let's say $40, right? And then if I convert to Chinese yens, and then it's like, wait, how much is that? 40 plus, multiply 7, so about $300, right? And I was like, oh my god, like how expensive is that? Like, I go to a restaurant in China, it costs me, 100 Chinese yens, and that's like pretty good meal already. And here I'm paying 300 yens for a normal meal, And then you just feel, why am I spending so much money? And then all the items that I purchase on Amazon, right, it's much more expensive if I convert that into Chinese currency. Just don't do that in your mind. That will make you really frustrated. Because you are living in the United States. Just use the currency here. Don't convert it to Chinese or whatever currency that's your home country is. Accept US dollars, and as I think the quicker the better. It took me a while to do that, but just from my experience, I think after adapt to the US dollar currency system, it will make your life much easier, and you don't have to be bothered by the amounts that you spend. Well, so that's all for the video. It will be my first series of what you expect as an international student in the United States. I hope you enjoy the video. Please let me know if you have any comments and what other topic you want me to cover as an international student living in the United States. I will try my best to cover all of them. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please thumb up, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't done so, and I will see you in the next video.